Hey guys, welcome back to the part 5 of the complete menu Legend of Zelda Master Quest. We're at the final dungeon, and I want to take back one thing I said in the last part. Now that I realize, looking at the dungeon map, it seems that at least 7 and 8 seem to fit into each other. Maybe the dimensions are slightly off, but I mean, who's got time to check that out? But we got 2 treasures in this dungeon, and we got the final boss of Dodongo. 3 to be exact, so having that extra upgraded bag is really handy at this point. So the 2 treasures we got are the magical rod, which I've been mentioning in a couple of parts before, and we got the magical key. So right now keys are quantity based consumable. Once we get the magical key, we'll pretty much have infinite uses of the key. It's a key that does not break upon usage with the door. And now I believe I've been hit with the red bubble, and now I've got to change up my strat because there might be a while since the blue bubble shows up. But the bow and arrow is a suitable replacement for very weak enemies. I believe it has a power effect of maybe a wooden sword. It's not very strong, but it'll do in a pinch. Luckily, the Dodongos, you can skip them, but if you had to fight them, bombs are at the ready. And here we go, here's a way to get our sword swing back. I get paranoid, but you can move through a Wall Master. These are, I believe, a new enemy. I don't think... No, we have encountered Wall Masters before. These enemies, if they grab you, they take you back to the beginning of the dungeon. But you, like anything else, if you use your boomerang, you stun the enemy and kind of stop its attacks. So you can walk through a Wall Master without it grabbing you and taking you back to the beginning. So with the bubbles closing in on me, I was trying to stun my way through, but I got paranoid, but then I got pushed through the Wall Master and I realized, oh, we could just walk through these. And now we got the magical rod. So our 2-part item of the rod and the Bible is now complete. Hopefully I get to show it off in this dungeon, but it is a very versatile weapon. But I like to stick to the standbys. The boomerang and the sword seem to work decent enough for me. It does have the problem that if you do fire the boomerang wrong, you've got to wait for it to return. Kind of like a Gemini laser in Mega Man 3. But it does move faster than the regular boomerang, even if it does cover twice the speed, so you don't have to wait too long. Here we got some Gorayas, and for some reason I decided to go back into the door even though there was only one Goraya left. I was intimidated, okay? And here we go, looking at this dungeon, it looks like Dungeon 7 could fit if it was rotated about 90 degrees. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I'm gonna say don't take my word for that, because not 100% on that. And here we got some ropes. I believe they didn't flash these multicolored, so this might be a different variety because I don't remember the behavior of ropes in the first quest. But these ones make a beeline for you, but they can be taken out one hit. It's so satisfying to have the magical sword at this point. I'm trying not to get hit, but it is inevitable, so... I do love having that sword beam ability. And the sword beam is as powerful as the sword that shoots out of it, so you've got a power of 4 when you shoot a sword beam out of a magical sword, so it's worth keeping around. It's like having the best weapon in the game extend its range to the entire screen, and that's always great. We got another Dig Dogger. Just play the Mario 3 melody. and break it down into bite-sized chunks. It was very generous, it dropped a lot of hearts this time. Not sure why I opened that door and decided to ignore the staircase. Open that staircase and decided to ignore it. But here we go, I think this is the last instance of a Grumble Grumble guy. Make sure to buy a meat every time you get rid of it. It only costs about 80 rupees, so it shouldn't be much of a problem. I would say Dungeon 8 probably gave me one of the easier times, despite it being so late in this playthrough. But then again, it is a non-linear game, so you could tackle this dungeon first and it might not give you a problem. Because even if you're up against blue Goroyas, you still would have the patience, and most enemies get pushed back by your sword swing, allowing you to combo them in a way. Allowing you to put some distance, and they get sent back quite a bit actually. So their added health towards your meager attack power, if you tackled this dungeon early on, wouldn't be much of a problem, especially in rooms like this with walls. And the drops never change. Doesn't matter how powered up you are, how into the game you are. If you enemies will always drop fairies when they decide to drop them, and they'll always drop hearts when they decide to drop them. And earlier on, a fairy could easily be a full heal. As well as replenishing meat between each dungeon, I would recommend replenishing a potion between each dungeon. Going into the dungeon at full health and having a potion is probably a recommended strategy, because around the halfway point you start to feel the wear of the enemies. You would heal halfway through the dungeon, and then right before the final boss you'd heal again, and then picking up the Triforce would heal you a third time, and you pretty much would be good to go. I don't believe this is the final boss, but this is a boss with door blocks, so we gotta take care of these Dodongos. And this room is significantly harder, given that the fact that you get pushed back and forth between by getting hit by the orbs, making you miss your shots. Luckily, if you've been following this guide as I have, as I've been relaying it, you wouldn't have enough bomb upgrades to take care of your misses. And there will be the final bomb bag upgrade in this dungeon actually. Or in this dungeon, or the final dungeon. I think that's something we haven't covered. There is a final dungeon in the game. There's 8 Triforce shards to get, but there is a final dungeon. And you can't enter it before you get all 8 shards, so that one has to be last no matter which order you take the rest in. And I got one more shot, hopefully this counts. I'm getting increasingly paranoid. I've got enough health to outlast it, but I don't want to waste it being backtracked to bombs. Oh boy. I probably stood there for at least a couple of minutes saying, okay, I can do this without getting hit by a red bubble. Just focus, Tony, you can do it. And I think within the first 2 seconds of stepping out, I got hit by a red bubble. But heading further towards the dungeon, I think there's a room full of blue bubbles, which will probably rectify the situation. There you go. I'm thinking it's not worth it. I don't want to get hit by a Wallmaster. And I decided to take this dungeon swordless, I believe. The Starfoes, they do quite a bit of damage with touch damage, but they are vulnerable. I wouldn't say vulnerable, but they do go down to the bow and arrow pretty easily, so it's a good strategy. And if you happen to max out your wallet, you pretty much got a lot of shots, so you could go ham with that bow and arrow. And now we picked up the magical key, and the symbol turns into an A, where the key quantity amount is. So that signifies that we have unlimited uses. I don't know why it's an A, it's probably got something to do with hexadecimal. After 9 comes 8, doesn't it, in hexadecimal? I mean, I'm speaking out of my ass here, I don't do programming, but from what I hear, from what my friends tell me, I think that's how it works. And I believe 0 comes before 1. And here we go, we start to see some use of the wand, so it can set up little fires. And enemies that move quickly are very susceptible to this because they keep going back and forth into the flames. Granted, I'm not doing a good showcase of wiping the floor with these ropes, but it's a good long-range attack. A bit more lingering than your bow and arrow. And yeah, I hit a blue bubble off screen because I probably needed my sword around this point. At least after this part. We are pretty much at... I think we're going to get another item. No, actually we have both the items. This might be a warp to... Given the timestamp, this might be a warp to the final boss. There is a lot of warping in this game. And you enter rooms like this to go from one place to another. Link seems to have these momentary spouts of just philosophizing. And here we have... not the first instance, but first instance I'm taking notice of are the Moldorms. They are incredibly disgusting in their conceptual art. They look like, you know, regular worms, but they, from that gameplay sprite, it just looks like a fire bar from Mario. Could have been a shared asset. Not exactly the same. One has a rounded hexagonal shape in Zelda, and the other one is more like a curled ball of flame. Where you spawn from the tunnel, more or less, there are two ways to go. You can go head to the Triforce, you can backtrack a couple of rooms. I forget what the backtracking is for, but there is an important item, or maybe something to please my compulsion. I'm not sure. But I guess we'll see in a couple of rooms. It might even be the bomb upgrade I was talking about, but I'm not sure. And here we have Aquamentus, who does not upgrade at all. 1, 2, 3. And he gave me pretty much all the health he took from me. Such a nice guy. Oh, and I got grabbed by a War Master. Nope. That didn't happen. I thought I'd save you the horrors of backtracking all the way there. That was terrible. Because you don't take any damage, but you do get sent to the beginning of the dungeon. And given how far we've come, we're pretty much... The beginning of the dungeon is that bottom right square, so we'd have to travel up and around and up and down and all around. Ah, here we go, the final bomb upgrade. You're gonna need 100 rupees, so... Killing every enemy you see in the overworld is a good way to keep your rupee bag close to full, and going after easy kills in a dungeon is recommended, just so you can afford to pay those 3 paywalls, repeatedly buy potions and meat for the Grumble Grumble guy, and to afford the bomb upgrades. If you take that kind of mentality, you'll be fine with rupee amounts. and also to keep your arrows in stock. Here we go, 16 bombs. We only need 6 to get these Dodongos dead. To dutifully destroy these Dodongos. Dastardly. Alliteration for the win. Sometimes you can combo them by taking advantage of their halting when they ingest the bomb and quickly put another one in their mouth after they're done. But it depends if they feel like continuing walking down that line just for another couple of steps. But with that, I'm taking my sweet time entering the room. We have our final Triforce Shard! Now with that said, we're going to be entering the final dungeon in the final part of this series, where we face off against Ganon. And with that, I'll see you guys for the final part, part 6 of the complete menu, Legend of Zelda Master Quest. See ya.